What's going on, fellas? Anybody out there? Give me a hello so we can see if everything's working well. Just wait for a few more to come on here. Late as usual. Perfect. At least I know it's running. Late as usual. You know what? I'm going to blame Bill Devine for being late. Because I don't have him live yet. He can't bitch at me. Anyway, what's going on, Joe? Corrado's in the house. What's happening, guys? Just going to set this thing up here. All right. Blake Parnan's in the house. What's going on? I got Bill Devine and John from Bullseye Power turbochargers in the background, waiting to come on. Just give it a couple more seconds here before we begin. Getting pretty excited about our 2020 season finally. Many of our sponsors have contacted us, and our supporters have contacted us, and I'm happy to say that our first order of business was to try and cover that $3,000 guaranteed payouts for Super Street and Easy Street, and we've been able to do it. So that's exciting news. We're now working on the bonus payouts for the SmackDown, and then we'll move on to the rest of the series payouts. So everybody keeps asking what's going on. It's our intention to run the SmackDown and the Canada Heads Up weekend all in one shot into July 25th weekend. And like most series or races right now, just with all that's happened in the world and in our locals, pretty hard to press for money when you don't know if the shops have been affected. So lots of conversations going on with our sponsors list and making sure that we support them, whether they can support us financially or not. We got to get these guys back up and running and make sure, I've said it many times, make sure that we spend our money with the people that support us, right? It goes both ways. 2021 will be huge, as we had hoped this year would be, and hopefully we don't have to deal with all these pandemics and craziness going on in the world today. But in the meantime, let's bring these. Let's see what I can do here. We're new, so give me a second. We're new at all this stuff. And sometimes having, I guess, a second help playing with the computer might be a little quicker. All right. Add stream. There he is. There's the man. What's going on, Bill?
How you doing, buddy? How's everything?
Everything is good. Everybody, welcome Bill Devine of Bullseye Power turbochargers out of Michigan. I've known Bill for a number of years, but really just met him last year for the first time. We got to spend some good quality time together at Lapeer, Michigan at the All Out Live race, where we brought our limited 28s program down to, and then we hit it off pretty good, and Bill came up to our SmackDown deal and our unfinished business deal, and Bill and his employees and shop have been supporting us big time as far as the OGW and Canada Heads Up goes. So welcome, Bill.
Thank you. So
Cool.
Say it is a two-way street, and you guys have been just as supportive to us. And we appreciate the relationship and all the support you've given us. It's been outstanding.
Cool. Just going to turn on the comments again. make sure everybody is hearing us properly, make sure everything's going on. As this is our first time doing an invitational, if anybody sees choppiness in the video or choppiness in the audio, let me know, please. That way, if it's not working out well, then we can try it again under a different platform or try different things anyway. So, as you're the first one, I'm going to throw a whole bunch of questions at you and see if we can understand what's going on behind closed doors at Bullseye and what Bill Devine is all about.
So I guess
First off, what's that?
go ahead.
Right
you got
on.
the mic, sir.
I got you. We'll get into drag racing in a minute, and I always like to say that family first. It's a big part of what I do. It's a big part of who I am. Tell us something that you enjoy doing outside of drag racing. Like, are you into muscle cars? Are you into supercars? Do you like to collect dried leaves?
Drying leaves, no. I am into supercars. I race a Mustang. You'd probably be surprised to know that I drive a Corvette. I've got a 19 Z06 right now. It's my second one since that new model came out. I'm not your average Corvette guy. I don't wear the boating shoes and the funny tennis shorts. You give me the car and I'll come back with the steering wheel in my hand is basically what it is. I like the way they handle. I like the way they run. I didn't buy it to say, look at me. In fact, if I could tint the windows and hide in that thing and nobody noticed it's me in there, I'd be happier. I bought it because I love the car.
Cool. And tell us a little bit about your business. Tell us about Bullseye. How many years in business? How many employees? Tell me your specialties.
Okay, so this company got started long before I came along. The original founding partner was David Hall, who is our in-house engineer. He's quite a creative guy. He's responsible for a lot of the things you guys see, a lot of the stuff that we do. He started it with another partner years ago, and I came in 2009, just after leaving another turbo company out west, and I started as basically a consultant or, a 1099 salesman, if you will. And I provided direction for the company. I had a lot of contacts and a lot of people. I was a pretty prominent guy back then in the turbo stuff. Now, you move forward 11 years, a lot of people are on turbos now, and it's come a long way since I started back in the early 90s. So, between contacts and experience, I've been in this industry virtually most of my career. I've been in the industry since the early 90s, 93. I got started at a motorsport dealer called Dayton Ford. And, this is what I love. It's my passion. And, my career just took off from there. And I've been for the most part, in the motorsports business since 93. Company-wise, as far as the company goes, I got involved in 2009. And they asked me to become a partner in 2013. I signed a deal in May of 13. I moved up here in August of 13. I've been up here in Michigan, which I call Alaska, ever since then. Now I'm a Milan guy, they tell me. So, the Cecil guys, they don't want to count me anymore. I don't count. So the reality is I've been here since then. And it's gone well. I don't have any complaints. I knew who I was getting in bed with before I signed the deal because I had a handful of years working with them. They're stand-up people. We're part of a much bigger corporation. The parent company owns 4 or 5 businesses like this. There's, in town, 3 or 4 buildings that, do machine work, pour castings, stainless steel, aluminum. Virtually you name it. We make a lot of parts for people, private label in the turbo business. There are some folks out there that buy stuff from us private label. We don't give their name away. That's why it's private label. Some of those guys even compete with us, and that's okay if we're doing business with them. But that's virtually the model. The intention here was to get heavier into drag racing. When I came on board, we were pretty heavy in the diesel market, and we were real heavy in the import market. And I got us involved more in the drag racing, and that's where my passion was. And that's, where we're moving now. That's the direction of the company virtually right now. It's probably the mainstay of our business is the V8 market.
Fantastic. That's that was a good history lesson. COVID is on everybody's mind. How is the COVID-19 deal affected your business? What have you done to overcome it? Did you have shutdowns, layoffs? Has your business been slow rolling? What's going on there?
So you probably know, especially in Michigan, it was a real crap show. The reality was that everybody's got their opinion on whether it was real or not, or the restrictions were pretty crazy, and they lasted a lot longer than a lot of places. And personally, me, and I won't get into politics, but I didn't agree with the way it went. But it's not my decision or choice. The reality is that we were deemed essential. We do manufacture parts, and we do make stuff for other areas of business that are not directly motorsport related. So we got to stay open and get deemed essential, and our parent company gave us passes. So if we were to get pulled over coming into the shop or something, we could verify that we were actually on the road, and we were on our way to work or coming home from work. So that helped. We stayed open. We were very slow. It was a huge impact to this business. I had one employee I had to lay off for only 2 weeks, and that was because his particular job in this business wasn't essential. So we laid him off until we got everything clear and brought him back in. So we did everything we could in our power to keep our employees working. That's what was important. For me, a lot of people don't realize when you're in a business, there's a lot of responsibility, and it's beyond what can I do for me today. You got a responsibility for your employees, your vendors. These people all need to put food on the table, and they need to make a living. And sometimes, ultimately, a decision I make sitting here or my partner may affect everybody everybody that works for us, and people that in their families, and you don't realize it. So to me, that's one of the most important things owning a business is the responsibility and accountability for your people.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
I think it was hard for me on that end.
Yep. It comes right down to the family comment I made earlier is that, I'm similar in business, different type of business, but in the end, your employees are a subsection of your family for sure.
Correct. And honestly, Ian, I learned I worked for some really crappy bosses over the years. I had some good bosses, and the more I got into this industry, I ran most of the places I worked at. And my mentality going in was I'll never behave like those bosses did. I want to take care of my people, and I want my people to enjoy their job. I want them to go home. I want them to have a nice life. I don't sit here every day and think, gee, what can I extrapolate from them today? That's not how we run business.
Exactly. That's awesome. All right, let's go into a little bit of race-related discussions now.
Sure.
Tell us about your drag racing history. How long you've been racing? Were you always a 10.5 racer? Any previous championships or large-scale noteworthy event wins?
Okay. So I'm 61 years old now, young 61 years old for anybody who starts at OG shit. And I got started racing when I was very young. I got started racing when I was 17 years old. I didn't have a license. And I was taking my mom's car, which at the time was a Pontiac with a 428, and I was out street racing it. So, back then we could get away with that kind of stuff. And I moved into, actually becoming legal and getting a license. I finally did get my license by the time I was 18. And the first car I bought was a hot rod. And I lost my license by the time I was 21. I'll tell you, I lost my license 6 or 7 times in New Jersey. That's where I lived at the time. I originally was born in New York and migrated to New Jersey. And it was all from racing. It was everything. Every day it was coming home with 3 tickets, 4 tickets. Back then, you didn't get banged on insurance. Tickets were $20, when I was a kid. So a lot of my friends were the same way. We'd go out, we'd race all night, come home with a wad of tickets, get paid and pay them off, and go do it again the next week. And that's virtually the way it was. So it was in my blood. It started when I was a kid. I worked for my grandfather. He owned a couple of gas stations, and then he had an auto store in Staten Island, New York. And I went to work for him. And, I was a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid. All I saw was these muscle cars pulling in. And I was the guy selling them the parts. And so I think my passion started right around, 12 to 14 years old for cars. And it migrated into losing my own license several times because I was a maniac. And eventually, I got into racing at the track. I figured out that was the place to go. And then I could actually make it work and not worry about being on the revoke list, which was a real treat. So the reality is that I've been racing race cars since I was 18 at the track and on the street. And I got into really, really fast cars probably in the late 80s, early 90s. It's
Cool.
migrated from there. I started with turbo cars. I started helping a guy we all know, Racing Jason. He's, God rest his soul, he's dead now. But I started with him. We sponsored him when I ran a motorsports store in New Jersey called Dayton Ford Motorsport. And hanging around him, I started to pick up on the turbo stuff. I had a relationship with Kenny Duttweiler. And of course, Job Sr. from Turbo People, who, he's retired now, he's gone. But between the three of those guys, by 95, I was building a turbo car. And from, 95 on, that's where it's been. That's what I've been doing and what I've been racing.
Cool. No, that's great. How about a little bit about I call it your iconic Mustang. Fantastic paint job. If people haven't seen your 10.5 car, I don't know where they've been, because I think it's hit just about every drag racing magazine. Such a striking color, such an amazing car. Tell us a little bit of history on that car.
Sure. So I've got a buddy that always says it looks like Walt Disney puked on it. And, the reality is right now it's actually wrapped. But previous to this wrap, which happened about close to 3 years ago, this car has always been painted. And it started out, I bought that car from Brandon Switzer over the winter of 2003. You asked about 10.5s. The first time I'd ever run some 10.5 tires was on my previous white car. And that's probably the car that gained the reputation that I had. And I put 10.5s on that car back in 2002. We're at MIR. And the gentleman that talked me into doing it was Anthony DeSoma. I sold Anthony parts years ago. We became friends back in the 90s. He had a gas station very close to a motorsports store that I ran in New Jersey. And we developed a relationship. And I wound up running 10.5s from probably 2002 on, migrated into ADRL, back to the race car. So I bought that car from Brandon. And I converted to a turbo car in the winter of 04. The car was all solid purple at the time, until I had a mishap in 2007. I was at a Valdosta and I went through the traps of 208. I guess there was a gust of wind and the car made 360s. I never did a thing. It just came around when I went for the shoots, and it got up on the rocker panels. Looked like somebody took a belt sander to the bottom of the nose, but it didn't roll. It didn't hit the wall. I got lucky. I was backwards a couple of times over 150 miles an hour. And you saw something similar this year when I was at your race this last year. So that car's been through a couple of things like that over the last few years. I had another mishap in 2017 at NCA. I lost an axle, about $150 or $160. Stayed in the lane, got the car stopped, no brakes. It was a little traumatic, but I got it stopped, and I've been very fortunate. That car has been very, very good to me. It's been in some really wild altercations. Most of them have been, mechanical. I've never crossed the center line under power while I was driving the car since I've had that car. But I've been very, very lucky. Very lucky.
Gotcha. Cool. No doubt where the Wild Bill Devine nickname came from.
You don't know they have to. I'm trying to sound normal. It's very hard. Just kidding.
Bullseye Power turbochargers power some of the quickest small tire shootout cars there are. Many of us are familiar with the staging procedures of a turbo car, but my question is this: when your car's up on a chip and the popping is so much more aggressive than others, is this brand specific? Is this car specific? Like, what's the difference of the backfiring we're hearing on a turbo car compared to your backfiring? Because it's pretty amazing to hear.
So virtually in a clutch car, we can't load the converter. There's no way to make boost without loading the motor. So if you just freewheel the motor on a two-step, it'll make a little bit of boost, but it doesn't make very much. Virtually what we do is we pull the timing back so far that it actually fires in the exhaust. So I always made the joke, it's like in high school putting an M80 in a toilet. I know none of you guys did that, but I did. So the reality is that's what it's like. You're dropping the bomb virtually on the as the exhaust valve opens and firing in the pipe, and that charge kicks the wheel around and gets it moving. It's real easy to make it backfire. That's why it does it. The hard part is trying to control it. You've got a couple of issues when it comes to that. One is that if you don't have that tune-up exactly right, the boost will tend to creep, or it might even, fall off. So you got to really pay attention to that. It's affected by weather and temperature. I've been doing it a long time. I have a pretty good handle on it. That's not a challenge anymore, but early on, that was probably the biggest challenge for consistency. You need to make consistent boost on the starting line. So that's where the popping comes from. The motor's freewheeling, there's no load on it, and you're yanking the timing back and you're firing it in the pipe is virtually what it is.
Cool. Good info. Similar question. Why do some cars have flames coming out of the exhaust when they're on the chip, and some cars don't? What's up with that?
It just depends upon the tune-up. Some guys will they'll get the tune-up to the point that it's firing a little bit on the pipe. It's coming out of the pipe, and that's how they make boost with it. Some guys, the turbo combination and the cubic inches, they don't need to do that. It really just depends on how much power they're looking for, whether or not they can spool it, or how fast they can spool it, and the type of fuel they run to.
Gotcha. Well, the rest of us standing behind your car love the real loud popping that you pull off, and we love the flames, so keep it up.
Right on, bro. Right on.
On average, how much boost will your combo make from, like, what kind of boost numbers are you pulling when you're launching, and what type of boost numbers are you pulling? Are you trying to reach going down the track? And I guess, how fast are you trying to ramp in your boost to full?
Okay, so typically this car, it can leave anywhere from 12 to 17 pounds. It's a big window, and run a pretty decent, 60-foot. The car's been, I'll just say it out loud, it doesn't really matter. It's been 973, and it's been sub 10 a bunch of times with ease. Anywhere in that window will typically card, depending on the track and the conditions. This is just a wide shot, anywhere from, a 980 to a 10. You got to miss by a mile. You got to be way out of that window to get past that. Or the track's not great. We got to race the track we're given. I'm not knocking the track, but if the track's not great, that window tightens up. But typically I shoot for about 15 to 17 pounds of boost, and it's all in right around 1 second.
Wow. Cool.
Maximum boost down the track. I've only had that card of about 43 or 44 pounds. The turbos are on right now probably make about 48, but I don't see the point in cranking boost in something that, isn't going A to B the way I want it to go A to B. So, the reality is when it goes A to B the way it should, and I can use all that power on the front end, we'll look at the back end.
Cool. Nick Augustino just commented. He said, "You're full of shit. You're all in on the chip."
That's only because they out 60-foot them.
Yeah, exactly. Once again, I know we didn't spend a lot of time together prior to this interview, and maybe we should have, but how about the next little bit here? Do you have anything that you'd like to advertise? Do you have any? I know we're not quite set up for a shop tour or anything like that, but you got any new equipment that you'd like to discuss quick?
So we do have what might be considered new equipment. It's been here a while now. It's been a couple of years, but initially our parent company did most of our machine work, which is part of this company. I mean, we're partnered in with them. So it gave us the claim that we make our own stuff. A couple of years ago, we bought a 5-axis CNC machine, and we bought a lathe. We had a manual lathe here, and we did most of the hand finishing here. All the turbos, all the stuff most of the stuff we sell, if it's our own brand name, 90% of it's, built to order, and it's, hand finished at that time that the order's placed. So it's a little bit time consuming, but it keeps us in control of our destiny. So yeah, the latest machines are probably that 5-axis CNC and the lathe. We have a welding station here. We do all the welding in house. There's a couple of Bridgeports out there. There's a gas test stand so that we can actually produce something, test it, know what it's going to do before it ever goes in a box and out in the field. We don't use the racer for a test bed. In fact, one of my pet peeves is when a guy says, "Well, send me a turbo and I'll give you feedback." I don't want to sound cocky. We know what it's going to do already. We want you to go run and go fast and do good with it. I want to eliminate that. I can work with a guy if he gives me feedback on his combination. I can improve that combination. But typically, as far as the turbo itself goes, we know what it's going to do before it ever goes in a box and goes out the door. The key is there's so many different combinations, different tuners, different ECMs or ECUs. different fuels being used, combinations that sometimes are way out in left field. It takes a lot more turbo to get them to make the same power as maybe an engine that has a lot better VE. So there's a lot of challenges, and it requires a lot of consultation.
Absolutely. And I can tell you, anybody that's watching here, we've sent a number of our racers and customers over to Bill to buy their turbos, and it's been interesting to deal with you on all those different levels, from myself buying turbos from you to starting the conversations with the next customer, and then transferring them over to you to deal with directly or through one of your guys and hearing their feedback. It's been very good. So much appreciated on that side of things, for sure.
Appreciate that too. It's a two-way street, my friend.
For sure. Just looking at the comments here, Pete Pete made a comment about an unconfirmed massive burnout at a car show somewhere along the lines in your history. Any comments on that?
What was that? I didn't understand yet, Ian.
Pete was asking for your comments on a massive burnout in the middle of a car show that may or may not have happened.
Yeah, there was more than one of those. There was a car show in Edison, New Jersey. It was probably 1997 or 98. They asked me to come out, and the mayor came out and said, I didn't know he was the mayor. He says, I want you to do a big burnout. I said, there's cops all over the place. I probably shouldn't do that. I've been to maintain my license now for about 15 years. I like to keep it that way. He says, I'm the mayor. We do whatever we want here. So, yeah, Pete, that you were probably there. That burnout did happen. Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. While Bill Devine has been a crowd favorite for many years, from his wild paint scheme to his driving style, rolling the gears of his Liberty and his turbo-powered Mustangs, we're fortunate to have the support of Bullseye Power turbochargers and yourself coming to our events. We definitely enjoy your attendance and all your crew and your family. Dealing with John at your office has been fun and a blast the last few weeks. I think you got a great guy there. So thanks for coming online with us, Bill, and hitting this new series off with me. It's been awesome.
Appreciate that. Would you like a quick walkthrough here?
Oh, if you can do it, that'd be wicked.
Yeah, there's a couple of areas I can't cover, but I'm going to graze through a few spots just so you get a little idea of what's going on here. It's not smoke and mirrors. Hang on a second, right?
Sweet. Absolutely.
John, you want to convert that over?
Let me flip this camera around. Still there?
Still here.
Cool.
Perfect.
There you go.
All right. So this is my office. You get the idea. My partner's office. You guys will appreciate that. That's our marketing guy. That's just a goof. So come out here. Got a lot of inventory. As you can see, a lot of parts. Typically, everything's roughed in on the shelf. And then, like I said, hand finished. Another office right here. More parts. Clamps and flanges. More parts. It's crazy. Food slop station. Gotta have that. Upstairs office. Manual lathe. Welding station. I hope I'm not going too fast. More parts. Pattern shop over there. It's my best friend and partner, Dave. He's actually took it upon himself to write programs now. What's up, Dave?
How you doing?
Good. How are you, buddy?
Good.
Thought I'd come out here and show everybody what you're doing.
Just happen to be making a bell for a new Gen 4 tunable cover.
So you guys can hear Dave. I don't know if you could over the machine, but that's a Gen 4 tunable cover inlet bell, threaded bell, which we do on all the mid-frame NLXs, and we've done it on a couple of the large frames. That's virtually the finished product right there.
So that adjusts the map width enhancement groove down here in the bore. You guys can see that. You can open that groove up about 6 turns, move your power band up and down. I'm sure you guys have seen that on the internet, but That's how it works. There's also some truck pulling classes and tractor pulling classes that don't allow a map groove, so you can spin that bell all the way down and close it off and make it legal for those classes.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Something really important, too, to note on that. A lot of people think that's a cheater. I want to explain something real quick to everybody. When you're dealing with a compressor cover like this, and you have that map with groove in here that David pointed out, you can see the air enters through here. That's called a recirc groove, recirculation. By adjusting that, all we're doing is moving the power band on the motor. We can move it from 3,500 to 7 or 8 or 9,000. A typical, say, 76 millimeter will move about 45 horsepower. It's been independently dyno proven. I do have results. If anybody wants to see them, I can post from that particular shop. Several racers that have used it will, confirm the same thing. So this is not something that's a cheater. When we're dealing with a cheater type inlet on a compressor wheel, here's how it works. Anytime that you see the compressor wheel through this hole right here, that's all she is. That's all of it. If you can see a groove here or a slot and you see more compressor wheel, that is not a map recirc groove or map with enhancement groove, as it's called. A map with enhancement groove is when the air enters the front of the cover, as you can see here again, and comes out past the leading edge of the wheel right here. So that's the main difference between some of the stuff that's out there that you may see a second inlet here, and you see that compressor wheel. That's introducing air in the front of the wheel. That's not a recirculation groove, which initially was designed to prevent surge. I'm only a little educated on that because it's the only thing in my life I've actually ever created was this map with enhancement adjustable deal. I actually have a patent on it, so I'm kind of proud of that because that's not really my forte. This is our 5-axis CNC machine, which obviously is down right now. It's a big pile. It's a really good machine, actually. Marble bench back here, more parts. Take a walk over here real quick. Couple of bridge ports, chop saw. Belt sanders. I'm going to graze past that fast. Gas test stand right there. Could you guys see any of that, Ian?
Yeah, we saw it. All looks good.
There's stuff on there right now that, we just don't want to put out there. And, it sounds cocky and I don't mean it to, but we don't want to teach the competition anything. Sometimes there's a lot of monkey see, monkey doing it. It's frustrating when you come up with something that works and everybody jumps on the bandwagon. In this industry, we all know it happens to everybody, so it's not uncommon. Shipping areas here. Bunch of turbos that got built this morning. One of those right there is for somebody pretty popular. Guy named Keith Rhea. He's got a large frame NLX headed his way today. Build area, there's Rich. Hey, Rich.
Hey, Internet. This is where the magic happens.
Yeah, he keeps telling me that. Balancer, clean room, assembly room, more parts, more stock, some turbine wheels. John, you guys get the idea. There's my 2-cent tour. Any questions?
Fantastic.
Now let me figure out how to flip this camera back. John will do it. Hang on.
There we go.
Perfect.
So one more thing I want to mention to you about the car, not to go backwards on you, but I am headed to Fuel Tech on Monday. Going to be on their hub dyno Monday. We did make a lot of changes to the car. So hoping some good things happen. It's been rewired, new ECU, change all the gearing in it and a bunch of other stuff, injectors, fuel pump. We'll see what happens. But looking forward to getting down there and maybe getting out and doing some racing again this year. It'd be a real treat after this coronavirus crap.
That's for sure. Well, Bill, thanks for showing off your shop. Definitely nice and clean looking. It looked fantastic. So
Appreciate that.
definitely,
Thank you.
you
I'm
guys,
a little critical of it, so it's nice to hear that.
yeah, you guys looks like you stock a lot of parts and have some nice machinery. That's for sure. So
Appreciate we try.
for sure. All right. Well, once again, thanks for helping me kick this new idea off. I think it's going to go over well, where we get together with some manufacturers and some racers and talk tech. It's awesome.
Yeah, man. Thank you, and I appreciate the fact that you included us in it.
Perfect. All right. Take care. Thanks for coming out.
Bye bye.
All right. Once again, thanks, Bill Devine and John of Bullseye Power Turbochargers. That's all I got for today, everybody. Hope you liked our live feed. Leave me a couple comments, maybe some questions. We've got some racers lined up. We've got some manufacturers lined up. Help me build my stack of questions for them. So we'll talk to you soon, everybody.